The woman walking toward the podium is the First Lady of the United States. She's about to give a televised statement from inside the White House about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. She's going to name 3 news outlets that were legally forced to retract stories about her. She's going to call for the survivors of Epstein to testify under oath in front of Congress. Then she's going to walk away.
And companies have been legally obligated to publicly apologize and retract their lies about me, such as Daily Beast, James Carville, and HarperCollins, UK.
Reporters tried to ask her questions. She didn't take a single one. She couldn't make out what they were shouting. That's the point. She didn't let any single question land. She didn't let any single question exist on tape. She let the noise say the noise. Most people heard a denial. I heard letters being sealed with the king's seal. And by the end of this video, I'm going to show you why she gave that speech from that location with the exact list of names and why what happened just days before she walked up on that podium changes everything you just heard. So here's exactly what happened on surface. Melania Trump released a public statement responding to allegations linking her to Jeffrey Epstein. The statement was clean, it was lawyered, it was polished. Said all the things you expect from First Lady's legal team to say. She said she never had a relationship with Epstein. She said her email correspondence with Ghislaine Maxwell was casual. She said that she met Epstein in 2000, 2 years after she met her husband. And she said she was never on a plane. She was never on an island. She was never witnessed. She's never been named. And every news outlet on earth ran with the same story. Melania denies Epstein's ties. But that's not what she did. Watch her words slowly. In that same statement, Melania did 3 things that nobody's talking about. First, she named 3 specific outlets that have been legally compelled to retract stories about her. The Daily Beast, James Carville, and HarperCollins UK. She called them out by name from the stateroom inside the White House with the cameras of every major network watching. Now I want you to ask yourself a question, why? Why would a woman who claims she's been wrongly accused take the time in the middle of a denial to publish a list of the people that she's already beaten in court? That's not a defense. That's a warning. It's a perimeter being drawn in public. That's her standing in front of a microphone and telling every reporter and every commentator and every podcaster watching, come at me and you'll be the 4th name on that list. It's not naivete. That's not clarification. That's a legal moat being dug in real time while the cameras are rolling, with the dirt being thrown in your face so you understand exactly what just happened. The second thing is she called for the survivors of Epstein to testify under oath in front of Congress.
Give these victims their opportunity to testify under oath in front of Congress with the power of sworn testimony. Each and every woman should have her day to tell her story in public if she wishes, and then her testimony should be permanently entered into the congressional record.
Public hearings, sworn testimony, permanent congressional record, that sounds noble. Stop. Think about it. If she meant that, who would be running those hearings? Who would be deciding what survivors testify? Who would be controlling the redactions? Who would be deciding what gets entered into the record and what gets sealed? She's calling for transparency from the exact people that's currently blocking the transparency. She's calling for hearings that, if they happen at all, will happen on the palace's terms. And when they don't happen the way that the public wants, she gets to say, I was the one who asked for this. I'm the one who wanted the truth. Don't blame me. That's not a request. That's an insurance policy. And the third thing is that she wrote it knowing things you don't know. And once I tell you what that was, you're going to read her statement again. You're going to listen to the video again. And you're not going to see a denial. You're going to see a victory lap. Before Melania walked up to that podium, the President of the United States fired the Attorney General of the United States. Pam Bondi, gone. Now stop. Hold that for a second, because the Attorney General doesn't just get fired in a normal week. the chief law enforcement officer of the entire country doesn't just walk away from their job. And when she does, there's a reason. There's always a reason. So what was the official reason? The administration said that it was because Bondi wasn't aggressive enough going after Trump's political enemies. She hadn't moved fast enough on Brennan. That the Comey case fell apart. That Letitia James indictment got tossed by a judge. That's the official story. Crime stats and personal performance. However, on March 17th, a few weeks before she got fired, the House Oversight Committee subpoenaed Bondi to appear under oath on April 14th to testify about what? Her handling of the Epstein files. The same files that Trump signed legislation to release. Same files that the DOJ slow walked. The same files where 2.5 million pages are still being withheld. Same files where dozens of victims' names just accidentally got exposed. The same files where Trump names appears tons of times. Those same files. Bondi was supposed to sit in a room, raise her right hand, swear an oath, and answer questions about how Epstein's files were managed under her watch. That deposition was scheduled for April 14th. She got fired April 2nd. 12 days before she had to testify. Now, I want you to watch something. This is Jonathan Turley. He's a Fox News legal contributor, law professor at George Washington University, friendly to the administration. Watch him try to explain why Bondi got fired on TV. Check this out.
Yeah, the thing to keep in mind about this is there is no bad blood that any of us are aware of between Bondi and Trump. Now, we can't speak for a relationship, obviously, that we're not part of, but I can't imagine that the president has not found her service to be really the pinnacle of loyalty. And she's literally the first one there whenever trouble starts. She's been criticized for that in terms of her role at the Department of Justice.
Did you catch that? Fox News legal analyst asked about the firing of the chief law enforcement officer of the United States, and he can't explain it. He keeps saying she was loyal. He keeps saying she was the first one out, or the first one there at every fight. He keeps calling her the service the pinnacle of loyalty, and then he tries to change the subject to EPA budgeting because the math doesn't work. And he knows it. He just can't say it on Fox News. But the comment section under that clip, they said it for him. These aren't liberal trolls. These aren't MSNBC viewers. These are Fox News commentators, Trump's own base. Read what they're saying. Trump's own base sees what just happened. They're naming it in plain English under their own TV station. Official story's not landing. Not even when the people are paid to believe it. So here's where we are. Witness was supposed to testify on April 14th about Epstein files. Witness got fired on April 2nd, 12 days before the deposition. And then, and only then, Melania walked down that hallway and read her statement in that order. The witness chair was already empty when she walked up to the microphone. The room had already been cleared. She wasn't drawing the perimeter. She was celebrating the perimeter held. We're not done because there's one more part of this I need you to see. And this is the part that takes it from being suspicious to completely undeniable. Now, I want to tell you who they replaced her with. His name is Todd Blanche. As of April 2nd, he is now the acting Attorney General of the United States. He's running the Department of Justice. He's overseeing the Epstein files and the one who decides what gets released, what gets redacted, what gets sealed, what gets prosecuted, what gets quietly closed. You probably haven't heard his name before, but let me tell you who he is. Todd Blanche was Donald Trump's personal criminal defense attorney. Not a friend, not a donor, not a former colleague, not a campaign volunteer. His defense attorney. The lawyer who literally defended Trump in court across multiple criminal cases in 2023 and 2024. The man's whose entire job for 2 years was to keep Donald Trump from being convicted. That man is now running the Department of Justice. The lawyer who used to defend Donald Trump in court is now the man in charge of the files that contain Donald Trump. The defense attorney is now the prosecutor. The man whose job was to protect the client is now the man whose job is to investigate the client. And nobody is really saying this. No, nobody's putting it on a ticker. Nobody's leading a broadcast with this. They're calling him former federal prosecutor, deputy attorney general. They're calling him Trump's pick. Anything except what it actually is. And the line that finally made me pick up the phone and start recording this video, it came from the same Jonathan Turley clip on the Fox News. He was describing Blanche, and he said this, word for word.
Todd Blanche, I'm also familiar with. He's a very good lawyer, and he's a no-nonsense guy. And whether he's here on an interim basis or he's being considered for the AG position, he is someone who is also a diehard Trump loyalist, in the sense he really believes in the president's policies. He believes in the president. He's also someone who sort of cuts through a lot of the noise. He gets these jobs done.
He gets these jobs done. That's a Fox News legal analyst describing the new Attorney General of the United States on friendly territory. No irony, no, like, he upholds the law. No, he serves the Constitution. Not he protects the rights of American people. He gets the jobs done. Well, I gotta ask, whose jobs? You know whose jobs. The man who used to be his client's jobs. And that right there is the moment that the official story dies, because once you know who Todd Blanche is, every other piece of this whole ordeal here stops looking like a coincidence, starts looking like a script. Bondi's fired 12 days before the deposition. Todd Blanche, the president's former defense attorney, is installed in her place. Melania walks down a White House hallway, reads a polished statement naming 3 redacted outlets, calls for a hearing that will now be run by the president's defense attorney's department, and then walks back. It's not 3 things, that's one thing. Palace was being cleaned out in broad daylight while we were all sitting here watching the war. Now I want to take you back to a story I told in my last video. Same king, same chapter, different verse this time. 1 Kings 21. Ahab is the king of Israel. He wants a vineyard that doesn't belong to him. The vineyard belongs to a man named Naboth. Naboth tells him no. So Ahab goes home. He pouts about it. His wife Jezebel sees him sulking, and she asks what's wrong. And when he tells her, she does what queens do. She doesn't get upset. She doesn't comfort him. She doesn't argue with Naboth's right to keep his vineyard. She handles it. She writes letters in the king's name. She seals them with the king's seal. She sends them to the elders in Naboth's town. And the letters say, but seat 2 scoundrels are opposite him and have them bring charges that he has cursed both God and the king. Then take him out and stone him to death. Guess what? It works. Naboth dies. The vineyard now becomes Ahab's, and nobody can prove a thing because everything was done legally. The witnesses said what they said. The trial happened. The stones were thrown by the book. Bam. That's 1 Kings 21, but the story doesn't end there, because 1 Kings 22 is what actually happens next, and that's the part that nobody's going to preach. In 1 Kings 22, Ahab decides to go to war, and before he goes to war, he does something very specific. He calls together the prophets, 400 of them to be exact, and he says, and he asks them, should I go to battle? Should I attack? All 400 of them say the same thing. Go up. The Lord will give it into your hand. 400 prophets, 0 dissent, completely unanimous. The king got the answer he wanted before he even finished asking the question. And the visiting king, King Jehoshaphat, he hears this and he's like, he's nervous. Something feels off here. So then he asks Ahab, is there no longer a prophet of the Lord here whom we can inquire of? Ahab says, yes, there is. There's one prophet through whom which we can inquire of the Lord, but I hate him because he never prophesies anything good about me, but always bad. He is Micaiah, son of Imlah. That's the giveaway right there. Ahab admits out loud on the record that he's already filled the room with prophets who will tell him what he wants to hear. And the one prophet who tells the truth is the one prophet he hates. So he keeps Micaiah locked up out of the room, off the witness list, until he's forced to bring him in. And when Micaiah is finally dragged in, Ahab tells him, tell me only the truth. Micaiah does. And Ahab has him thrown in prison for it. You see what happened? Ahab didn't fear the truth, he feared unmanaged truth. So he managed the room before he let the truth speak. Cleaned out the throne room. He filled it with prophets who were going to say what he needed them to say. And he locked up the voice who couldn't be controlled. And then he asked the question, that's not 3,000 years ago, that's last week. The witness chair was emptied before the deposition. The prosecution's chair was filled with the defendant's own lawyer. The press release came after to draw the perimeter and warn everybody else to stay back. The prophets on television go on air and they stutter through explanations that don't fit the facts because they are the 400 prophets. They are saying what the king needs them to say. And the one or two voices can tell the truth. Comments under the videos, a handful of independent journalists, the people watching this right now get treated the way Micaiah got treated. Locked up, suppressed, algorithmically buried, not because what we're saying is false, but because it's unmanaged. The serpent didn't lie about the fruit. The lie was in the timing and the framing. And the framing of this entire ordeal is the lie. Now I want to be straight with you about what I do know and what I don't know. I don't know what's in the rest of the Epstein files. I don't know what Melania knows. I don't know what Pam Bondi was going to say under oath. Nobody outside the palace does. And anybody's telling you that they do is just straight up lying. But I know what I'm watching. And so do you. Because if Fox News commoners can see it, the question is what you're going to do with the fact you saw it. Most of you are going to sit here and watch this video and feel something. A pull of your chest, a tightening of your jaw, a voice in the back of your head that's going to say, yeah, that's right. That's what's happening. Then you're going to scroll. Tomorrow morning, the algorithm is going to serve you something easier. They're going to serve you celebrities, a sports clip, a cooking video, some type of fight on a plane, something that doesn't ask anything of you. And what I just showed you would be gone from your mind by lunch. That's not an accident. That's the design. That's the palace. That's what the palace is counting on. They built this whole thing to be forgotten as fast as you saw it. So the only question that matters right now is whether you're going to remember this on Wednesday, or you're going to remember this on Sunday, or you're going to remember this a couple of weeks from now. Not because I said it, because it's real, and real things don't stop being real just because you stop paying attention. Watch the perimeter. Watch who else issues a statement next. Watch what witnesses get reassigned. Watch what seats get filled with familiar faces. Watch who gets promoted out of trouble and who gets quietly retired. Watch the press releases for the words that don't belong. Transitioning the private sector. New opportunities. Spending more time with family. Those phrases are the king's seal. They are the letters Jezebel wrote. And watch yourself. Watch what you do with what you just saw, because the palace doesn't fear truth. It fears unmanaged truth. And the only thing that makes truth unmanaged is that people will refuse to forget.